Welcome to the Weather Guru Podcast for Monday, July 17th, 2023. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button for the latest interpretation of the weather for the lower 48 contiguous United States, and sometimes we do abroad too. Right now, we want to look at first the tornado warning that's on courtesy of Radar Scope. This is in Kansas. We have a tornado warning in effect for Kansas. This cell here is moving south at 14 knots. There's a tornado warning in effect for this cell here. As we put it in motion here, you can see the deep purple core, hail core complex on the northeastern side near the rear flank downdraft. You can see an inflow notch here proceeding into the storm right there. So you can see from Buckland to Mullinville to Greensburg down to Haviland, Kansas, in the middle of Kansas in the heartland here, there is a tornado warning in effect. And this tornado warning is going to be expiring, but it's lasting for the next 15 minutes or so. So tornado and tennis ball size hail. This is radar indicated rotation. Once again, if you're in a mobile home, or if you're in a rural area here in Kansas, or if you're in a structure, please get to the interior or lowest level of your home, or the interior, or the many walls between you and the storm. Tornadic thunderstorm is mainly off of rural areas, east central Ford, northwestern Kiowa, and southwestern Edwards counties. Okay, this is tennis ball size hail reported here, and I can show you the velocities here. We can look at the velocities here. You can see inbound and outbound here. There's a coupling right there. That coupling right there over Buckland. So if you're in Buckland, Kansas, and Mullinville, this is about maybe 45 miles southeast of Dodge City, Kansas here, out of the Dodge City, Kansas radar here. And you can see here the distance here is about right there, about 30 miles, 23 miles, southeast of Dodge City, Kansas there. We have that rotation that's moving, sliding southwestward into Buckland. So there's a possible rotating storm bringing tennis ball size hail in this supercell here. We can go back to the regular reflectivity here, and you can see those strong storms along the inflow notch there that's moving in a weird direction, the southwesterly direction here. But this storm is moving south as a whole complex, kind of an MCS complex here of storms here. I'll broaden it out for you here. This is just to the southeast of Dodge City. It's moving down to the south and rural land here, along with a low line of storms here that's trickling down through Alva, Helena, Enid, and on through Oklahoma here. So this showers along this boundary here is producing these. You can see up here, you can clearly see the outflow boundary here of this rotational system here. This whole broad area of low pressure is rotating. This outflow boundary here, right there, you can see it clearly on the radar, extending from Jetmore into Dodge City. So some gusty winds may be coming into Dodge City in the next 10 to 15 minutes, gusts up to 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. And then also this heavy rain and hail, tennis ball size hail, once again in Ford, Kansas, Buckland, Kansas, and also through Mineola. Watch out in the next 30 to 45 minutes. Coldwater and Wilmore, you too as well. So I just want to share that with you here briefly here, as we had this tornado warning that expires in 44 minutes here for Clark, Ford, and Kiowa counties, just 23 miles southeast of Dodge City, Kansas here. All right, now looking at our other pictures here, we're going to continue to move on here and transition to our National Weather Service hazards here. It's just extremely hot. You guys know this. It's been the 10th to 15th day of heat, consecutive heat for cities like Phoenix, El Paso, Albuquerque, Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, Houston, San Antonio, up and through Oklahoma City and Tulsa, you name it. We've have excessive heat warnings here in the purple. Please be hydrated, even if you get some electrolytes. Those Gatorade electrolytes are good, as well as water. Wear light clothing and wear a hat, shading or umbrella to keep yourself from the UV waves that are extreme at 11 as well as the extreme heat. And we also have excessive heat advisories, and that's posted in the orange here, as you can see, all through the Sun Belt here of Louisiana, up through Mississippi River Valley, up through the Tennessee Valley, all the way over to the desert Southwest and the Four Corners here. Now, that's basically the dominating story of the day today, but we also have a severe thunderstorm watch, which the National Weather Service has issued. So if you're in St. Louis, Waller, Cape Girardeau, Paducah, Memphis, Jackson, Tennessee, up through Springfield, Moline, Illinois, up through Indiana, Indianapolis, Lafayette, Indianapolis, and also over toward the Cincinnati area, Dayton around 275 in that area, up through Corbin, Dayton, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, and the northern Kentucky. You want to be careful. The severe thunderstorm watch, as that same complex of storms is going to eject out of Kansas into Missouri and into the lower Ohio Valley there later on tonight. Now we have flash flood warnings continuing. Our prayers are in effect for those in Vermont and those who in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. 4 people lost their lives in the flash flood there just to the northeast of Philadelphia. And also in Vermont, they're still recovering. There's still a flash flood watch in effect for the northern Hudson Valley, Adirondacks, the Green Mountains of Vermont, and the White Mountains of New Hampshire, as well as the lower valleys there into Berlin, Manchester, and etc. Okay, so in the Berkshires, a little corner of the Berkshires of Massachusetts there. So be careful if you're in northern New England. Heavy downpours could be expected up to half an inch to an inch an hour in some cases as these storms come off. And the good news is that there is chances that the Canadian wildfires, see if you look at the overall GFS picture here in the last 6 hours, the Canadian wildfires can be a little bit tamed here. They're getting some rains up here in northern Ontario here and Ottawa here. So some rain, nothing heavy, but it is going to produce some rains to help alleviate some of this wildfire smoke that's been just smoldering here all the way from down through DC, Baltimore, all the way to Richmond. All of this smoke has been all the way up to I-95 corridor. So I know you guys are looking forward to a break from that. I put this in the motion here. You can see that those showers will continue to exit along the coast, and then later on toward the middle of next week we have another system that comes across the mid-Atlantic providing some more rain, and that's going to be very welcome rain. But as you note here, if I stop the GFS model here, next week Monday we're not seeing much rain out in the Intermountain West, so places like Albuquerque and Phoenix, Arizona, Tucson, El Paso, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, those areas are going to be drying out and getting really hot. They stay hot as this warm southwest flow, this ridging, continues to make its impact there. As far as the tropics, subtropical storm Don, tropical depression, is still hanging on with 35-mile-an-hour winds well to the northeast of Bermuda and well to the northwest of the Azores Islands here, but right now pressure's at 1010 millibars. Is moving at 14 miles an hour southeast, so it's kind of meandering out here, and you can see the forecast pattern for that does call for it to meander and make a fish hook out into the back toward the northwest here as a tropical storm. So Don is a storm that's going to be well lived, even though it's a tropical storm. It's going to regenerate into a tropical storm from a depression where it is now. The wind's probably around 45 to 50 miles an hour by 6 p.m. Saturday, so it's going to be a well live storm before we get to the E-name storm. But after that, there is nothing out here in the Atlantic basin. Otherwise, if I switch to the satellite here, you can see there's nothing out here. There's another vigorous wave coming out the Senegal, Cape Verde Islands here. That may develop into something. We have to watch that next week, or coming up the end of this week, And then we have a frontal here coming off, a cold frontal boundary, a trough coming off. Nothing but showers there. Nothing in the Caribbean, nothing in the Gulf of Mexico, but sea surface temperatures are warm, as you know. And then in the Caribbean, the Eastern Pacific, we have a 10% chance of development in the next 7 days for this disturbance here. We just had Calvin over here. You can see Calvin is moving toward the Hawaiian Islands. Thankfully, it's downgraded to a tropical storm with only 50-mile-an-hour winds. And the interesting thing about Calvin is that it was at one point a hurricane, almost a major hurricane with 110-mile-an-hour winds. But since then, it has dissipated. It's falling apart and has a small core here. And I can show that to you on the current satellite imagery here for Calvin. You can see that it has a small core system here, and it's moving into cooler water. So, and the wind steer is coming. So, it's definitely looking at a case that you can see here. It's exposed. And I'm going to put this in pause too. You can see the center is exposed here. We have an open center. We have most of the coldest cloud tops to the north of the center. The southern eye wall is exposed. If you can call it that, tropical storm. But the southern part of the circulation is exposed to the open now and to the south and the southeast, as you can see. And there's also the banding features are still there, but the convection, the heavy convection now has really calmed down around the center. And we can show that again with the true infrared picture here. Let's see if we can go there to this here, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. You can see that the convection has calmed down here significantly here with this system. It still has a great shape, but it's very compact here, and because of that, Calvin is going to be weakening significantly to a probably a depression as it makes its way past the Hawaiian Islands here. I want to go back to that picture. I just had it for you here. One moment here. Let's just switch back here to Calvin. Now, Calvin is a disturbance here. I want to see if we can get, there we go. See, Calvin is forecast to approach the Hawaiian Islands today through Tuesday, and then track near the Big Island Tuesday night into Wednesday. So Calvin is about 850 miles east of the Big Island right now, and it's moving pretty rapidly. So it's going to forecast a weaken, as I said, by depression by Wednesday and Thursday, well west of the Big Island. So it's going to create some high surf and locally strong winds. Nothing that Hawaii hadn't seen before. But however, you want to be careful for some of the flooding on the Big Island and some of the mountainous zones. If you're in a mountainous zone on the Big Island, Hilo there, on the north side, on the north shore of Hilo or the southwest shore, you want to be careful because that could create some flooding there as well, with the period of heavy rain or mudsliding could be a concern. So those in Hawaii County should continue to monitor for those impacts as noted here by the National Hurricane Center. So I just want to give you those key messages there as well. But other than that, as far as, let's go back to the radar scope, courtesy of radar scope here, I want to show you some other areas here. We don't have much going on besides this warning here that it has been allowed to expire in 35 minutes here. Now the flash flood warnings, there are some flash flood warnings currently going on in Missouri here, and there's one going on in Missouri. Very heavy rain here in Poplar Bluff here. Flash flood warning here for northeastern Butler County and southeastern Missouri in the Boot Hill country. Okay, between 2 to 3 inches of rain have fallen. Additional rainfall amounts of 2 to 3 inches are possible in the warned area. Flash flooding is ongoing right now. With a warning and a watch, warning means that flash flooding is ongoing. So these small creeks and streams here, if I zoom in, you can see that heavy rainfall core there, just that reds, the deeper reds, the higher decibels there in Williams, Fisk, Dudley, Poplar Bluff, Missouri here. And if I zoom out, you can see these cities here are getting heavy rain. That's coming into Campbell still in the Boot Hill country here. As we zoom in, that is the only area of heavy weather we have besides that tornado watch and warning. So if you're in that Boot Hill country here, Missouri, from Poplar Bluff to Sykeston, down through Kennett, and even in the Dyersburg, all of this will be sinking south into Tennessee, western Tennessee, from Dyersburg, Ripley, Covington, Jackson in the next 2 hours. But right now, the focus is on the Boot Hill country of Missouri, from Poplar Bluff to Dexton to Sykeston. This is heavy rain, 2 to 3 inches an hour, and that flash flood warning is still in effect for the next 4 to 5 hours Central Daylight Time. Hail is coming down as well. 1.5 inches of hail max size, so that's like a bigger than a quarter size hail is coming down in this area here between Poplar Bluff, Fisk, Williamsville, Greenville, up in here as well. So hail is coming down. All of this line here, this is a MCS, a mesoscale convective complex here that's coming through this area right now and sinking southeastward. All these storms are sinking southeastward here as well. So just want to point that out to you as well. This has been the Weather Guru update for July 17, 2023 for the lower 48 United States, as well as warnings and hazards. Thank you for joining me. Please be sure to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.